How's it going, guys? I stole your intro. Fuck you, Nick.
Ah,
It's Chris here. I'm doing another coach's interview. I'm doing it with Nick, aka Superblah, aka coach of the Boston Red Sox, aka that team that done gone and won their last season. How you feeling, Nick?
namaste, bitches.
Word.
See, I had to come up with a new intro just for that because you stole mine.
I feel like you've done Namaste before,
No, I
like in
haven't.
some weird like challenge cup or something, maybe.
It maybe.
Nah, usually challenge cup's like the offensive hero, please.
Yep, yep. That or like I probably would have ruined it by saying blamaste to make it a pun,
Yeah.
but I've been trying to move out of that,
Yeah, trying to branch out.
Trying to.
All
It's not
right.
as easy as you might think.
I mean, you may or may not have a serious addiction that needs to be addressed and dealt with,
See,
and that
I think
may
it just
or
might
may not be why we're here today.
it might be subconscious at this point. I may not be able to control it.
It's probably compulsive. Like you
Like,
you probably can't help it anymore.
yeah, it's there. We've learned to live with it.
Yeah, you'll have to make double the effort to not do it as you had to originally make the effort to get good at it. And
That's a scary thought.
yeah, that's generally how these kind of, life destroying addictions go, Nick.
Uh, yeah, it's kind of like heroin.
A little bit, puns, heroin, very similar.
Very similar, equally as powerful,
Yeah,
and pretty good at thinning blood also.
this is true. This is true. So, you won last season.
I did.
You won.
Uh, uh, it was kind of those like, like movies when there's like a protagonist who is thrown into the situation where they have to save the world,
Yeah.
but they weren't good at anything before the movie started, so they're kind of just like running ahead of the ground that's falling into like an endless pit and just trying to not die, and that's their main goal.
Yes.
That was kind of my goal last year was to not die. And I had a few lucky breaks go my way that, kept my season going.
You did. You did.
There was a
I mean,
50-50
I mean, let's not sell you short. You had a strong start. You just had, a fumble in the middle there, which a lot of other teams did.
Yeah, it's hard to not do that over the course of such a long season, which is
Yeah.
part of the reason why we're shortening this season is so that people can play at their best level for the entirety of the season rather than get tired like halfway through and then that's it.
Yeah. But
So
yeah, you definitely did, have some very narrow wins that, either got you into the finals and the playoffs or got you through the playoffs and into the
yeah,
finals.
like Gubbs, he's a team like he wants the differential. He'll try to go for the 3-0, 4-0 wins. I'm all about the W's. That's all. That's all.
I know, and that's the thing I talked to you about, like, and at some point early on last season, because I always thought differential was very important. I mean, obviously, if you just get the wins, nothing matters. But we had already seen in the first season teams that, scraped in off of differential. And you were, again, an example of that. Like, despite being a team that went for the wins, you got in off of one win. It could have very easily come down to differential had,
Yeah.
one match gone the other way.
Actually, going into the final game against Shady, I was under the impression that as long as I didn't lose by worse than 1-0, I would have still been in because my math was wrong. So I was like, that's my goal. Just don't lose by worse than 1-0. And like 5 minutes before, I was told that, oh, I have to win this game. So I was like, okay, time to play
Well,
stall.
it was like you had to win to lock it in. Otherwise, you could lose, but then it depended on how Alex did or,
Yeah, yeah,
like
I don't like judging,
Yeah, it was a thing that it took the ball out of your court if you didn't win. Like,
yeah.
you removed your own fate. So, that being said, uh you think you're gonna change that up this season? Are you gonna try and play more for differential, or are you just gonna go for the win and go
Um,
for more consistent wins?
the thing is, you have to play to what your team allows, and my team is very heavily aligned towards hyper offense. I did pick up Hippowdon in this draft.
Yeah, more
And
hyper offense, obviously.
yeah, and Mega Scizor, which both give me some kind of bulk to go with Melodic. So I might be able to make, more favorable switches that will let me preserve my things for longer. But I think it's just going to be down to just killing as many things as I can before one of my Pokemon dies, because most of my roster are things that can go 2 for 1 in any given match, and that's a formula that would, if they live up to their potential, make me win a lot more games than I'll lose.
That's the first time I've actually heard you like break down, a solid number theory as far as exchange rate for things, kill death ratios and stuff like that. But I know it's probably a thing you've thought about. Was that something like, is that a thing you think about when you draft stuff? Because I'm interested in your draft process. Like, I think yours is one of the more in-depth and also kind of esoteric ones.
Right. Well, a big factor into this is the non-existent life that I have. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of time just to get bored and do things. So I actually came up with a new page in my Season 3 Excel file, which is like, Excel has made the GBA 10 times more fun than it would ever be
It
without
is.
Excel.
Spreadsheets are the best part of the GBA, and
They are.
anyone who says different is a liar and isn't playing in the format correctly.
Right. And I think I started this sheet back in like September, and I had a roster analysis page. So what I did was I put up the 7 things that I still had, put down their types, and I made it all like tables so you can sort it. And then I put down their base stats, so I can sort by average base stats, so I can see, what my team overall is lacking or has like a surplus of. In my case, I have a lot of big offensive stats and some decent speed, so maybe I want to focus more towards bulk in the draft. And then I also made a type chart. So all of my typing is there. It has, how much resistances I have, how many resistances I have for each type and all that. So I got pretty deep into the analysis. And then I made a separate table for all of the things I was considered drafting or trading for. And then I would give them a rank, like a score, between 1 and 100, based on how well they fit my team, their raw scores for their stats that they have. So if like Deoxy Speed, say, were, a free agent, he would get a 100 for his speed stat because that's obviously how fast he is.
Yeah.
And we went really deep just so we can just have as much fun with it, but also try to bring, advanced stats into the game and see if it actually helps. I figured this would be a good year to see if that kind of in-depth scouting would actually pay off. And I'm pretty happy with my...
Bringing a little money ball into
Yeah,
things.
you've got to. You absolutely have to, especially since I wasn't in a position where I could easily trade up in the draft because most of my assets were important for me going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I had such a low draft pick already just because of how well we did last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was fun. Way too much work, but I think it paid off. I actually used everything that I ended up going for. I have a list that I'll probably release after the season of trade targets, who owns it, and the probability of being able to get a deal done with those. And it's pretty funny. So
I mean, that's going to get pretty subjective there because that's you basing it off, 1, your ability to negotiate, 2, the other person's ability to be negotiated with, and then 3, arbitrary, totally subjective values of targets. But
right,
it's still
and
pretty interesting.
there are scores for those too.
Yeah.
Like I put
There have to
Joe
be
down.
scores.
Joe has a solid 10 next to his name, where 10 is the highest, as in he's most willing to make moves because Joe likes trading. Fizz is also he's like an 11.
Yeah,
He's a 12.
This is a guaranteed trade. I mean, if you have something, he'll probably trade for it. It doesn't
Yeah,
really.
and there are more people that are difficult to trade with, only because they feel like they drafted their things, so they want to, get as much value as they can from them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people in the league aren't really comfortable with trading. They don't have the biggest sports background, so they don't see the value of it inherently, and it's something that people are starting to warm up to. We've been getting a ton more trades lately, so
Yeah.
that's cool.
Also, a lot more things to be moved around, and the pool's kind of, I mean, besides the expansion teams, and even them, they have, some fairly decent stuff, but, like, the pool is more balanced now than it was last season, so it's like, last year's expansion teams can trade more even ground than they could have before.
Right,
So,
and when the free agent market is bare, you have to look to the trade market because that's the only thing that's left.
yeah.
So just by necessity, there will be more trades.
Yeah. So all that being said, all the talk about your stats docs and your draft docs, how do you feel your draft went for you? I know the first round you got totally fairy blocked.
Yeah, I did. Uh, Basically, I knew going into the draft that I had a wheel, so I'd get 2 picks in a row. Hippowdon was my number one choice all off season going into the draft. I was like, all right, Hippowdon is the thing I want most. I need something that can just take any physical hit, and Hippowdon can do that.
And a lot of
Uh,
special hits.
Right, and a lot of special hits, and reliably get rocks up, and it has recovery, and it just fits my team so well. I don't have to use sand, but even if I do, I have enough ground and steel types that don't really care about the damage.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, on my depth chart, I figured Clefable would be there. If it doesn't, like, I didn't expect it to go past, the top 4 picks. And then as it kept falling, I was like, ooh, maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get it. That didn't work out. And then Gardevoir didn't work out as well. Gardevoir did a lot of work for me last year, so I was thinking maybe I would pick it back up. But it got picked,
Early.
and it got picked early,
Yeah.
earlier than I expected.
I don't
I
think earlier
totally
than value dictated though, because
no.
the fairy pool is so slim and everybody seems to believe it's a necessary component.
That's what people are thinking. And for some people it may be. Fairy's it's a very useful type,
Yeah.
defensively and offensively. And also Gardevoir is just a very good poke. It has Trace. Trace is really valuable because of all the different abilities people want to try to run to get a matchup advantage. Yeah, so uh, after that we went to Hawlucha, and people were like, "Oh, are you going to redraft Hariyama? Are you going to redraft Hariyama?" And I kind of just threw that out the window once I saw Hawlucha there. Hawlucha's speed was the main thing that drew me to it. My team really has trouble with those base like 108s, 115s and stuff, just because Deoxys is the only thing that outspeeds it, and if they slap a scarf on it, I can't really do much about it.
Yeah.
So Hawlucha gives me that speed based on his raw stats. I think he's 113. And then also with Unburdened, so I pretty much have an unlimited dearth of speed that I can go to, especially with my next pick where I have Scolipede, who has speed boost. He can pass it, and it sets me up for a wider variety of offensive output, I think. So,
Yeah.
and just the coverage, Scolipede gives me a big bug attack, as well as Mega Scizor that I got because I had a really hard time with psychic types like Cresselia and Deoxys D. So I was really pleased with my draft. I think it was more of a low-key draft just because I didn't really need the big, the superstars. I already had them, and I just needed role players, and I think I got pretty much everything I wanted.
That's pretty good. I mean, I like your draft. I was always surprised how Lucha didn't go earlier, considering, it could have very easily been a hype pick in the season one, like,
Yeah,
and
easily.
then season two entirely untouched and really unscouted by most people. And, again, like with all of you guys and the expansion teams coming in, it was like, all right, there's still some weird things that are going before it. But
Oh, there always will be too.
yeah, but I guess
Like
the move tutors probably pushed it over the edge this season.
the move tutors were kind of an afterthought for me, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you
I
needed the speed,
figured,
like you said. So
yeah, the speed was there, and Hawlucha, it has this weird ability to just sweep teams, and I'm not sure why it is. Whenever I've used it, even if it happened to get burned, it still can it just puts out work just because it's got the coverage, it's got strong stab. A lot of people in the league are complaining like, oh, so and so has Terrakion. They're going to be so hard to beat. You know, well, Hawlucha outspeeds Terrakion and it's going to kill it now. So Hawlucha is just kind of my anti-threat Pokemon. It's really just it's fast and strong. It doesn't need the high base stats. It has Swords Dance and strong stabs, so that makes up for what's normally less than ideal for a big offensive hitter in a base stat total. So yeah, it definitely worked out well for me.
All right, so you won last season. You don't need to really change up the game plan. You just need to do the same thing better again, which isn't even a problem, really. You got pretty much the draft you wanted. Could have subbed a few things in and out, but overall you got all the players you needed. Divisions, conferences are out. What do you think about your division? It is you, Fizzy Stardust, Shady Penguin, and Miguel. How you feeling about it?
I I really like it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Uh, I know Fizz got a lot better. You look at what he did last year, and he got off to a slow start. But everybody in the world knew that he was playing for this year because of the draft picks that he got.
Hmm.
And then he made some bonkers trade, if we can, if you can call it a trade.
He made a
It's
couple of
like,
bonkers trades,
yeah,
really.
it's like if you call a big guy in a mask like trading a brick to the face to some other guy for his wallet. Like that's the kind of trade that Fizz made, and it netted him Terrakion and Sylveon. The thing is, he has a very threatening team, uh, except that I feel like I have a very strong matchup just because of the threats that he has are all weak to the threats that I have.
Right.
So like for example, Hawlucha counters a good,
Like half
third
of his team, yeah.
yeah, a good half of his team. And the things that it doesn't, Sylveon, for example, can get handled by Aegislash, stuff like
I mean,
that.
you can
I don't
always
want to,
run Poison Jab.
right, it can, or just Scolipede does that too.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't have to be worried about what I'm saying because Fizz knows it. He knows what I have,
Yeah.
and he acknowledges it. So, I, yeah, I'm pretty excited to play him because we've played a lot of times since 2008 when we met, the end of 2008. So it's always fun to play him. I've played Shady a couple of times,
First and
and
last matches of the season, I think, for last
that's
season, yeah.
that's right. It was 1-0 in my favor and a 2-0 in my favor. Um, 2-0, 3-0, one of those things. It's irrelevant. What matters is that he's getting better as a player.
Yeah.
He made better draft choices this year, I feel. He didn't, what did he go for? His Mega Altaria.
Yep.
So,
Great defensive
uh,
pick.
it's great. It's great for defense. It's really underrated for offense as well.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to serve him a lot better than Manectric because he does tend to get a little bit reckless sometimes. So I
Yeah.
think the added bulk will let him, survive a few of his own mistakes that he might make. But I do think he's getting better at the game, and he's not, going to be an automatic win by any means. So there's that. And speaking of getting good, Miguel's a very good player. His team on paper might seem like it's a little weak, but I think it doesn't even seem that weak. He still has some really good things on there.
It's just, it
It just
exists
looks
in the
like
it exists in the shadow of bigger threats, but
right.
it's still got a lot of synergy. Like obviously, when you're lined up against Aegis/Deoxys S, like okay, you have to have some big things to deal with that, and like Infernape isn't the first thing to come to mind, but by no means is Infernape bad. Like
No, not at all. But it's like that situation where somebody snaps a twig and then you hold a bundle of twigs and it's harder to break.
yeah.
Miguel's got that synergy. Alone, Aegislash and Deoxy Speed, for example, wouldn't you may not necessarily be enough for his team. He has a very good core that he can work with Rotom, Alamomola, Weezing.
I mean,
Um,
Honchkrow alone kind of F's them.
yeah, it really does. And even if it is, him being outmatched on paper, I think Miguel's the one player in the division that can make the plays that he needs to in order to make up for that. So it's not going to be easy against him, just mostly because we've never played before, and I haven't seen very many of his games, so I'm not sure what kind of player he is. I definitely will do some scouting in terms of watching him to like learn his play style and stuff, as I do for everybody that I play.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think it'll be fun, and hopefully I can back up all the trash talk that we've been doing. So you have to do trash talk. If you don't do trash talk, you're missing out on a good 40% of the fun. So
Yeah. And then 50% is spreadsheets, and then 10% is the match.
yeah, well, actually, 8% is nah. Can we have like 200% because the drafting is really fun too.
I consider drafting part of the spreadsheets.
Okay, there you go. That's
I
perfectly
think
fair.
if you're not using a spreadsheet, you aren't drafting well.
You're not even drafting. You're
Yeah.
just bobbing for apples.
Yeah,
At
you're
that.
just, yeah, you might as well be picking names out of a hat. That's the level you're at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, across from you, but same conference, you're running into Gubbs, Kote, Danza, and Roger. How you feel about them?
Gubbs and Kote are going to be there. They've been there. It's looking at me and looking doofy as fuck because that's what they look like. They're just a couple of doofy guys. I've known them both for almost 5 years, which is retarded and shouldn't ever happen on the internet, but it does. So, yeah, they both have really stacked teams, Kote especially. Gubbs, I can't say that I was in favor of his trade that he made, that where
Yeah.
he basically swapped the cores. Landorus Eye is a huge threat, but I really think that having Heatran, he's just going to miss that a lot.
Yeah.
Toxicroak is a nice threat that he got though, and obviously he stole Mega Mawile from me because he's a dirty little thief. And yeah, but he did Gubbs. I think it's safe to say he had the best draft,
Yeah.
which is not really shocking. He had the first overall pick and he got Skarmory with it, and that's a phenomenal. You can't really go wrong with the top three with Sylveon, Terrakion, and Skarmory, but
Yeah. And I mean, the exact things he needed fell.
right,
Which
yeah.
is just,
And he got Vaporeon, and he ended up sniping, not really sniping because nobody took it, Volcarona. I couldn't take it. I didn't have a spinner. I still don't really have a spinner. I have Mega Scizor, that's it.
yeah.
Like I saw it there. I saw the value of it. Theoretically, its typing for Fire and Bug fit on my team well, similar to Scolipede, but I didn't have the support for it. He
Yeah.
has that, and I think just he had Gastrodon last year, and he had Skarmory, and I don't remember what else he lost, but he's got his bulk back though. Like
Yep.
that's one thing that people were looking at, like, oh, you're gonna lose a ton of bulk. But now all of a sudden he has Skarm, Vaporeon, Porygon 2, Celebi, Togekiss, and Snorlax, and you're just like, oh, crap. So Gubbs is going to be hard to break. I said it in my playoff videos last year. I can't overpower Kote. He's got the Premier Rain team. I can't overpower him. I have to outplay him. Gubbs I can overpower, and that's just that has been my strategy for both players, both times I faced them. And it it worked out in the later, parts of the season. I had a little, somewhat, misfortunate things against both of them where I forgot Tornadus learned Focus Blast and stuff, so I got like rolled by Gubbs in I think the middle of the season, and I missed a Focus Blast against Kote the first time we played. So yeah, they're both really good. They're going to be threats. Roger, I don't know how I feel about Roger. He's kind of like that, like the new kid in like elementary school. You don't know anything about them, but you know that you don't like him because all of a sudden he's getting all the attention. And I think it's appropriate because Roger is still in elementary school.
This is true.
And yeah, so other than that, Danza's over here. Danza's team is really, it's he's got the names. I can say that. He's got the big names on his team. He's got
Right.
um Gliscor and Mew now, Cobalion, Mega Pinsir, and of course Raikou and Flygon. The U-turn, I mean. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Dance's interesting. I don't know if he got better for all the moves he made. I think he could have benefited from having the higher pick. I would have rather had, Clefable than the entirety of Entei Tangrowth and Granbull. So that's just my preference, though, as in, my type of player. Maybe it works better for him. I don't know. We'll figure it out when we play. But, yeah. So his team's interesting. He has to play it right.
Yeah.
So, like, you can have, the nicest car, but if you don't know how to drive, it's just,
Yeah, and I mean,
not,
you can have a piece of shit, but if you know how to take a turn, you
there you
know how to
go.
take a turn. So, all right. Who do you want to play the least all season? And you have the benefit of we actually have the schedule now. No one else up until
Yeah.
this point has had the schedule. So,
So that question is the same question as who do I play week 1 this year?
really,
Uh, I don't want to play John.
why is that? Just
Because he
afraid
has
of
Mega Sableye
yeah.
and I can't touch Mega Sableye. So I'm gonna have to play around with my numbers and see what I can do against it. He still has Conk and Deoxys D and Nidoking and all that crap, Talonflame. And then he added really good. He had a really good draft too. He got Starmie, Breloom, Rhyperior. Um,
Yeah.
the latter two, I don't know if they're particularly useful against my team. Breloom is something I was pondering taking over Hawlucha, but I have so many different ice weaknesses already. Even though Hawlucha is already an ice weakness, at least he can outspeed most of the ice types and kill them.
Right.
So Breloom, I know Mach Punch is strong, but I'll take High Jump Kick any day. Yeah, I think it was just more down to Hawlucha does more for my team, even though I really wanted, Breloom and also the priority that comes with Breloom. So, yeah, I think his team is very threatening. I don't really want to play him. I don't have a choice. I play him first.
At
At
least you only have to
least,
play him once, like in
right,
the
right,
regular
right.
season.
I would love to have a rematch in the finals with him this year because that would obviously mean that I make it to the finals. So if we do end up playing twice this year, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to go with it. The good thing is that I do play him week 1. I don't have to worry about him all season. I can
Yeah.
just get him out of the way. If I win, great. If I lose, that's okay. It's only one game, and I can move on from there. Um, so yeah, just my real strategy is to play to my division, just win as many games as possible. If I eke in, I think we'll have one division where a 500 team might make the playoffs. And if that's my division, so be it. I just think that making the playoffs is the most important thing because once you get to the playoffs, then anything can happen. And I think I showed that last year. So.
All right. So, who are you looking forward to playing the most?
Oh, easily Miguel. I will sweep him with a Hippowdon this year. It will be a baton pass situation, but it's going to happen.
Only once, or are you going to go
Hip,
for two?
I'm going to go +6/+6, and Hippowdon's going to be behind a sub the whole time, and it won't take damage. I promise.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a,
I
it's a
can't,
bold proclamation,
that is a bold and somewhat
and
specific
and
proclamation,
just
but
for some Foley, do you know what Foley is? Are you familiar with the term?
no.
It is sound effects added to movies and such to heighten the intensity of the situation.
Okay, I got
This
you.
is me opening a can of whoop ass against Miguel. Boom.
Damn, that's serious business from a not so serious man, but who is seriously the best GBA player in the league at the moment, until
I'll take
season
it.
starts.
I'll take it.
So that being said, thank you very much, Nick, for joining me. Thank you guys for checking all these out. This is the last interview that's gonna go up, so I tried to get everybody that I could. If I didn't get someone, because I am recording these out of order at this point. If I didn't get someone, I'm sorry. Schedules just didn't match up. It's not like I don't hate anybody or anything like that. It's just I do a full-time job. Most of these people do full-time jobs or college or YouTube, so may not have been able to get everybody. But thanks again to Nick and everyone else who showed up. Nick's the man. Nick's gonna put a lot of work into his videos this season. I've seen the layouts and stuff that he's got going on. They're gonna be pretty sick. Um, I'll have his link in the description. Please go check it out. Enjoy his stuff. Anything else you want to say, Nick?
See you later. Have a wonderful day.